Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I'm here to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of November. I'm sorry, I don't have Christmas decorations up yet on my shelves. They're coming soon, I'm a little bit behind. There's gonna be Christmas cheer behind me at some point this month, I swear. As far as introductions to this video, I read a grand total of 4 books in November, which is way less than I was planning on, but like, they're all really good. So I think that makes up for it. I really liked all 4 of the books I read, so I'm choosing to be happy with that. I'm going to talk about these in order from the book I liked least to the book I liked most. What is the mix of years I have on this? So I have a 2018 release, a 2017 release, a 2016 release, and a 2015 release. You know, that worked out really well. Anyway, let's just jump into it so I can give you mini reviews of the 4 books that I read in November. So my least favorite book that I read in the month of November was, bear with me here, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Now, it's not that I didn't like this book. I still gave it 4 stars, but like I said, this was a very good reading month, and this just wound up on the bottom. So Six of Crows, as you probably all know, because everyone has read this book but me, is about a collection of 6 characters who are basically tasked with pulling off an impossible heist. To get a little bit more in depth, Six of Crows takes place in the Grishaverse, and in the Grishaverse there are people called Grisha who are people with like special abilities, and there's this one dude who is making a drug that makes Grisha way stronger but also like eventually kills them, and someone hires this collection of 6 people to steal the guy who makes this drug so that he can't make the drug for the wrong people. That's actually the heist that they're all kind of pulling off. They're stealing a person. In this collection of 6 characters, there are multiple queer characters, there's a disabled character, multiple characters of color, there's a fat character, like, it's a super diverse collection of people pulling off a fantastical heist. That's what you know about Six of Crows. So here's what I have to say about this book. I think the second half is way stronger than the first half. I was fully prepared to go into this book with a lot of setup because you can't have a heist without a ridiculous amount of setup. It's why the heist thing is one of my favorite genres. It's because I love every step of the process. I like the planning, I like the research, and I like when they're actually trying to pull off the thing. However, it just felt like it took a little too long to get to some of the more exciting moments, and that first half really dragged for me while I was reading it. Also, I just was not getting as into the characters as I was hoping I would after hearing as much as I did about this book and its characters. By the end, I was a bit more into them, and I especially was starting to really love Kaz as a character and Inej as a character, but the rest still I'm kind of unsure about. On the positive side, once we actually got into the heist portion of this book, I was really into it. I thought it was incredibly well written. I loved all of the different overlapping jobs. It was very heist-esque, and I liked how it read. It was exciting, and it was something I wanted to see like visually on a screen, which is one of my highest marks for a book. As soon as I can visualize it and I want to see it put up onto a screen, it means the author has done an incredible job. Like I said, I also started to like the characters a lot more, and one of my all-time favorite things about this book was the friendship between Inej and Nina. It should not be that rare to find really well-written female friendships in like YA fantasy, but it is. And I loved that these 2 female characters clearly had a history. They had a way of playing off of each other. They'd known each other for a long time and were really good friends, and nothing was gonna get in the way of that. And I thought that the chapters between them just read as like really authentic in terms of friendship, and it was just really refreshing. I like went out and bought Crooked Kingdom the day after I finished Six of Crows, so I still definitely want to read it, but overall I wound up giving this one 4 stars. Not a new favorite, but one that I still liked. Next up I want to talk about Where Am I Now? True Stories of Girlhood and Accidental Fame by Mara Wilson. This is Mara Wilson's memoir, and possibly my favorite memoir I've ever read. I need you to know that I cried through this entire book. And like, I don't cry in nonfiction. I don't even read nonfiction that often, but I cried through this whole book. So growing up, Mara Wilson was a huge part of my life. She was Matilda, which was like a formative experience of my childhood, but she was in so many other things I loved. She was in the remake of Miracle on 34th Street. She was in, what was that called? Simple Wish. She was in Mrs. Doubtfire. Like, Mara Wilson just made up so much of my childhood, and at the time I was watching these movies, I was the same age as her, so I spent so much of my life admiring her, and I continue to so admire Mara Wilson and the things that she has done. And I think it's because of that connection of age, of growing up, and of feeling connected to these characters that she played that I cried through this entire book. In particular, there is a chapter called A Letter, and the letter is a letter to Matilda, which, as Mara explains, she feels will always be the most complicated relationship in her life. And I just sobbed through the entire thing. There is so much to that story of Matilda and Mara Wilson's relationship with her mom, the fact that her mom was diagnosed with cancer and died over the course of filming Matilda, her memories of Robin Williams and the other people that she grew up with. There is just so much here, and the ways that she talks about growing up in Hollywood, being sexualized from a very young age, or being reduced to her looks and just being adorable, and the struggles that she had trying to find her place in life. This was just a remarkably well-written book, and I loved every single moment of it. Definitely my favorite memoir that I've ever read, and like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I want to give this to everyone I know. Oh, also, how could I, fail to mention this? So Mara Wilson also deals with depression, anxiety, and is diagnosed with OCD, which is another reason I love this, because I have multiple people in my life who've been diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. I spent the first half of this book reading it going, does she know? Does she know that she has OCD? Is she diagnosed with this? Does she know? Because that's what this is. And when we finally got to the chapter where she talked about realizing and recognizing that she had OCD and it was something that she could deal with and she could go see a therapist about, I was sobbing again. This book is great. I want to give it to everyone I know. I just absolutely loved it. Now I would like to talk about Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan McGuire. This is my 2018 release that I mentioned. It comes out in January of 2018, and it is the 3rd book in the Wayward Children companion series. So Every Heart a Doorway is the first book in this companion series. It's a book about children who go through doorways to other worlds and then return to our world and no longer feel like they fit in here. So they are sent to a school called Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children. It's just a school for all of these children who have gone to a magical place and returned to our world. You guys know that I absolutely loved Every Heart a Doorway. Every Heart a Doorway was one of my favorite books I read last year. The sequel, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, is going to be one of my favorite books this year, and this was such a fitting 3rd book in the series. I can't tell you anything about this book because it is a direct sequel to Every Heart a Doorway, and even kind of mentioning anything that's happening in this book would spoil stuff that happens in Every Heart a Doorway, but I will say it was fantastic. It had a very different tone, I think, from the other 2 books. This one is much more a quest story. It's a magical adventure through various magical lands, and it's dark but also really funny, and it maintains a collection of wonderful characters that you care about. If you loved Every Heart a Doorway, or if you loved Down Among the Sticks and Bones, continue reading on. Does not disappoint in the least, and this comes out in January, so you don't even have to wait that long before you get this book. Plus it has the most beautiful cover. I adore it. And the final book I'm going to talk about, my favorite book that I read in the month of November, was Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. This book is gorgeous, and I feel like the description I have offered every time before I read this book is accurate, but does not fully encompass what this book did. So Wild Beauty is about this family of women who tend these gardens that people from around the world come to see because they're so beautiful and so lush. Throughout history, they've been called witches, they've been thrown out of places because of their abilities, and so they have this place where they belong, but they're also cursed. They can never leave, and they hide the fact that if any of them ever falls too deeply in love, their lovers vanish. And then one day, a boy appears in the gardens. He has no memory of who he is, and every woman in the family has a different reaction to his presence. This is a magical realism story with an almost entirely Latinx cast that is so deeply about family and relationships and agency, and it's just so beautiful. It's about learning your legacy and moving forward from it. It's about the past and the ways that you can make the future together, and about love, and like so much more. I got so emotional reading the second half of this book. Also, basically every single woman in this family is bisexual. So yeah, a fully queer Latinx cast of characters talking about like colonialism and agency, and it's all written in this magical realism that's so lush and pretty. I want to drown in it. I also love the main romance. it's so good. Like, the most important thing I can say about this book is that I closed the final page, I shut the book, and for a while I entertained the thought of just flipping back to the first page and starting it all over again. It was that captivating and gorgeous a story as I finished it off. So, like, clearly I loved this book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm so glad that I finally got to read this, and so glad that it came in Owlcrate, because I loved it. Okay guys, there you go. Those are all of the books that I read in the month of November. What do you think of the books I read? What do you think of the reviews I gave them? Have you read any of these books? Let me know down on the comments below. Plus, let me know what your favorite book was that you read in the month of November. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!